Hi and welcome to the 64 Doors. Today we're going to open door 19 and we call this archetype the Eutierrian. This comes from the word Eutieria, which means to be one with earth, to care about all the plants, the animals, the beings, and to feel our connectedness to it all. And I wanted to start showing you how it looks in the body graph. So here we have the 19 coming out of the root center, and it's connected to the 49 in the emotional center, in the channel of sensitivity or synthesis. It's a similar pairing as last week when we had the 41 from the root and the 30 in the emotional center. When we look at it or feel into it in a low frequency, we know that it's going to function from the lower chakras. So it's going to function from survival and from ego. And then the 19, when it's at that frequency, it's using things on the outside to feel safe. So it's very territorial. It needs to kind of own the territory. It needs to have all the animals, the tribal energy. So I kind of speak about it in a tribal setting. So it needs to own the territory. It needs to have all the animals. It needs to be in control over the plants, also probably in control over other people. And it does that because it has this pressure, you could say, to be safe. And since it doesn't feel inherently safe in the low frequency, it's using these things from the outside. And even in its relationship to God, it doesn't feel really safe. So often it might take an animal and actually sacrifice the blood, for example, to know that God is there. So as we know, in the low frequency, it's all fear-driven, and it doesn't care about the outside. It actually probably has more food and more territory and more than what is actually needed. So it's that selfishness, and at the same time we can say it's codependence, because it doesn't have inside that security. So it's dependent on things on the outside to feel safe. And when we look at it, if it's not such a tribal energy, you can see how you would use others. If it's like in a city, how you would use others to feel safe, and how you would claim that as your right. That is the low frequency. It's very selfish. When we go up and look at it in a higher frequency, you can actually look at it here. So you can see it's depending on something on the outside, and it's also paired with the 33. So that's on the other side of the wheel. I actually want to show that again. So here we have the 19 in Aquarius, and then on the other side we have the 33. So these are programming partners. So when we are in that low frequency of wanting to be safe by things on the outside and in a selfish way, it's connected to, on the other side, the forgetting why we're here, the forgetting how beautiful the earth is, the forgetting of how everything is interconnected and how we can live, in peace and harmony together. It's a very contracted state. When we come up to the higher frequencies, then we are actually daring to go back into our sensitivity, and to not necessarily feel we're unsafe just because we're sensitive. No, actually, when we use all the senses, when we start to reconnect to everything around us, and we can even reconnect to the way of using that communication with animals to learn more about not only earth, but to have them like in the dream arc, or in a shamanic sense, to reclaim the power of what it is to be on this earth and the interconnectedness of everything. And that happens when we can retreat and pause, because when we're just running in order to have everything, to have the territory, in order to be powerful, then we are, of course, in that wheel of survival. It's not until we retreat, we invite mindfulness, we invite a pause, when we can go in our sensitivity, when we can have time to feel all our senses, when we can have time to reconnect with animals and with how we treat animals maybe in this world. And what we say, the name of this hexagram is the future human being, because when we stop functioning in these old ways, that's when we can allow something new that is much more, like we say, sometimes we could say it's much more feminine, it's much more yin, is to feel what's around us, it's to pause, it's to come back to our sensitivity. And that is when the revelation of the new world comes, the revelation of the world that was always there, but that when we were in fear, using things on the outside to feel safe, that equilibrium was completely out of balance. We can also see that we have the codon ring of Gaia. So this is the Eutierrian is really Gaia. It's really about the earth. It's about the inspiration that we can feel when we tune into the great mystery of how everything is connected, and it's the magic as well when we invite all the parts again to be part of our reality. We can also go down here, orient oneself back to the eternal spring of vital life force within. So again, this is like when we come back within, and we can see also how everything is hologenetic. So the earth is one system, but it's also, we are a system inside ourselves. So we kind of have the truth in ourselves as well. And when we find our own vitality inside, it's also gonna influence how that is playing out, how we are playing out with the world. You can look integral human design. So that is the channel of synthesis or independence. And we can see that the first step is independence to feel we don't need God outside ourselves. We don't need to own a lot of acres of land. That is the first step. But really the highest step is that interdependence, to see we're all connected. We all need each other in one way. We all need to care about each other, I would say. And that is why we call it the stream of cooperation. So it's about being sensitive, not only to my own needs, but also to your needs. And that tribal energy of being able to see your needs and my needs, and to be actually very responsible in the 19 for how that can look, for how we can live in harmony. So if I would give, something to do as a homework this week, I feel that is really about go back home and look, what are the things that you have in your home that you don't really need, but maybe you have them to feel safe, maybe you have them to feel that you have something, and that's kind of a status symbol, or something just that you have 3 or 4 of. Maybe you could start giving away something to somebody that needs it. And also look at your relationships. Where is there codependence? Where are you pretending other people are going to do things for you because you deserve it? And where does that come from? And if you have pets, or if you have maybe a cat on the street, can you tune into that for a little moment and see, is there communication? Can you understand where it's at? Can you even maybe feel that it's talking to you? Because the 19 is that sensitivity. It's a shamanic ability to speak with mammals. So how can you tune into that? Maybe just drive to the countryside and where there are cows or horses, and spend an afternoon just being with those animals that usually maybe is in your sandwich. It's like to kind of just reverse that, what we think is normal, and we should be able to go to the supermarket and get our piece of meat and to cook it, but just go back to something more natural and see, where does it come from, and how does it feel to spend time with a cow in the afternoon, and then maybe go home and cook the meat. Not to put a strain on ourselves that we are not good enough or that we're doing anything wrong, but just again the revelation of the connectedness of what we are here, how we are connected, and how the future being would do. Like, step into the clothes of a future human being and ask yourself, how would I act if I was the future human being? So thank you for today. Bye.